looked into the deepest recesses of...
They didn't expect him to say it out loud. Not like that. Not on camera. Not in front of millions of people who were actually listening. Because once something is said, you can't take it back.
It's an 8-armed octopus. And if you take just trafficking out, that arm will grow back. You have to take the head.
And that's exactly the moment everything started to change for Jim Caviezel. This wasn't just another Hollywood actor giving an interview. This wasn't promotion. This wasn't performance. This was different. His voice wasn't polished. It wasn't rehearsed. It cracked, it shook. And for a split second, it felt less like acting and more like someone carrying something heavy for far too long.
The public wakes up to this whole thing and sees films like this. People won't be able to walk down the street ever again.
And the moment he said it, everything shifted. Suddenly, people weren't just watching him anymore. They were watching what he said, questioning it, arguing about it, and more importantly, reacting to it.
We were about 4 years ago, we showed a movie, and this has been a 5-year deal. And they've done everything they could to stop it, as they did this with The Passion of the Christ.
But here's the part that really made things uncomfortable. He didn't stop. While others would have walked it back, softened the message, or stayed quiet to protect their careers, Jim leaned in hard. And that's when the backlash began. Because in Hollywood, there are lines you don't cross, topics you don't touch, stories you don't tell.
So if you go to the devil to play the devil will deceive you and put something up there that deceives the public.
And whether he realized it or not, Jim Caviezel had just stepped right into the middle of all of it. So the real question is, did he expose something people weren't ready to hear? Or did he say something powerful people never wanted said at all? To understand that, you have to go back to where his story really began. Long before the interviews, long before the controversy, long before his name started trending for all the wrong reasons.
Are we going to let our children go? And that's a question, and people have to answer. And I think they're onto this. And the way things are going to be done now, it's going to be changed from this point on. There's going to be a new direction in this country.
Jim Caviezel wasn't always seen as controversial. In fact, for years, he was respected, quiet, focused, the kind of actor who stayed out of drama and let his work speak for itself. Most people first recognized him from one role that changed everything, portraying Jesus in The Passion of the Christ. It wasn't just a movie, it was a global moment, emotional, intense, and unforgettable. That role alone should have locked him into Hollywood's top tier. Big budgets, major directors, endless opportunities.
The adrenaline of children, look, where we're at right now, hopefully we need your prayers. Essentially, you have adrenaline in your body. I'll just simplify it. And when you are scared, you produce it. If a child knows he's going to, his body will secrete this.
But that's not what happened. Instead of chasing fame, Jim took a different path. He chose projects that meant something to him, stories that weren't always safe, roles that didn't guarantee success. And over time, something quietly started to shift. He wasn't being pushed forward the same way. He wasn't landing the biggest roles anymore.
I would not throw myself in the way of the enemy that's going to hurt and maim my children. And my own 3 children, that I love my life so much.
And while he still worked, it felt like Hollywood had slowly started placing him on the outside. Not rejected, but not fully embraced either. Still, he kept going. TV roles, smaller films, steady work, no drama. Until one project came along that would change everything. A film that most studios didn't want, a story many people avoided, a subject that made executives uncomfortable. Sound of Freedom.
I am going to grant the motion by the moving defendants, OUR, the Spear Fund and Ms. Russin, and dismiss count 15 as to those defendants with prejudice.
But here's what the mainstream coverage...
At first, it didn't look like anything major. Modest budget, limited support, years of delays before it even reached audiences. But behind the scenes, it was already building tension because of what it talked about, because of what it showed, and because of what it implied. The film focused on child trafficking, a real issue, a dark reality that exists but is rarely explored in mainstream entertainment. And when it finally released, something unexpected happened. People showed up, not just a few, millions.
Yeah. You know, it is such a sensitive subject matter that it's very important that the film or this dialogue doesn't get labeled politically. This is a film that should unite. You know, we're so divided as a country that for me, I'm always looking to finding stories that unite us. You know, this is not something that we should disagree.
The movie spread through word of mouth, conversations, online discussions. It became bigger than anyone predicted. But here's the twist. It wasn't just the film getting attention anymore. It was Jim. Because during interviews, he didn't just talk about acting, he went further. He started connecting the film's story to real-world concerns. He spoke about networks, systems.
After the film has been released and has found success, along with some of the conspiracy theories that have floated around and the controversies, do you still believe that Jim Caviezel was the right man for the role?
Absolutely, and let me tell you...
And things he believed were happening behind closed doors. And whether people agreed with him or not, they listened. That's when everything started to escalate.
Photos of several high-profile men, including former President Bill Clinton and pop icon Michael Jackson, have been made public as part of the massive trove of Jeffrey Epstein-related documents released by the Department of Justice.
Because now, it wasn't just a movie. It was a conversation, and that conversation made people uncomfortable. Some supported him, said he was brave, said he was raising awareness. Others pushed back, hard. They questioned his claims, criticized his tone, accused him of going too far. And suddenly, Jim Caviezel wasn't just an actor anymore. He was a headline.
They all cried out Epstein Island. And I went, oh, okay. Now I understand what we're...
Interviews became tense. Clips went viral. Every word he said was analyzed, debated, picked apart. And then came the association that changed everything. Epstein. The moment his comments started being linked to discussions about Jeffrey Epstein and the crimes connected to that case, the situation exploded.
Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates has admitted to having 2 affairs with Russian women and has apologized for his links to the convicted pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein.
Because Epstein's story wasn't just controversial, it was explosive. A case involving powerful individuals, wealth, influence, and deeply disturbing allegations that shook the world. Even years after Epstein's death, the topic remains sensitive, complex, and filled with unanswered questions. So when Jim's words started being tied to that narrative, it wasn't taken lightly.
Andrew writes, "I'm just as concerned for you, don't worry about me. It would seem we are in this together and will have to rise above it."
Some people believed he was speaking truth. Others believed he was crossing a line into speculation. But no matter which side you were on, one thing was clear. The pressure was building. And what nobody expected was how fast things would turn. Opportunities slowed down. Public perception shifted. Media coverage became more critical. It wasn't loud at first. It wasn't a sudden collapse. It was quieter than that. A slow pullback. Fewer roles, fewer appearances, less visibility. And in Hollywood, silence can be louder than criticism.
But look, because of what has happened, I don't think it is appropriate that we should remain in contact. And by mutual agreement during that walk in the park, we decided that we would part company, and I left, I think it was the next day. And to this day, I never had any contact with him from that day.
Because when the calls stop coming, you feel it. When your name starts carrying risk, people notice. And that's exactly what seemed to be happening.
I don't remember anything about it.
During hours of closed-door congressional questioning, former President Bill Clinton repeatedly gave similar answers about some of his encounters with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, first reported by CNN.
I have no recollection of it, but it could have happened.
Jim wasn't canceled outright, but he wasn't embraced either. He existed in that uncomfortable middle space where people don't say much, but they step back just enough. And that's where the real tension began.
And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Because Jim didn't back down. He didn't issue a major apology. He didn't completely retract what he said. If anything, he stayed consistent. And that consistency made the situation even more complicated, because now it wasn't just about one interview. It was about a stance, a position, a belief system that he wasn't willing to walk away from.
I'd like to work again, but I'd never been a guy who would sell his soul to get, money or fame. Was never my goal.
And in an industry built on reputation and relationships, that can be dangerous. But here's the emotional part people don't always see. This isn't just about headlines or public debates. It's about a person, a career, a life that changed direction in real time. Imagine working for decades to build something, only to feel it shifting beneath your feet. Imagine knowing that every word you say could cost you opportunities. Friends distancing themselves, colleagues staying quiet, not because they hate you, but because they're protecting themselves.
I did a movie a long time ago in New York, and I was with Homicide, and I got to see the contortion of a face when someone, and it's hard to watch. But when you start going into this, which is children, there is something that I can't even fathom. I had no choice but to go in, and I hear the screams in my heart.
That kind of isolation doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in. And for someone like Jim, who built his identity around purpose-driven work, that shift hits differently.
Well, I'm not the bad guy. I'm the good guy. I am the warden. They are my prison.
Because to him, this wasn't just about acting. It was about meaning. And whether you agree with him or not, you can't ignore the emotional weight of that. The tension, the pressure, the uncertainty. Because at the center of all of this is a man who believes he spoke up for something important. And now, he's dealing with the consequences. His career isn't what it used to be. His public image has changed, and his name now carries a kind of controversy that doesn't fade easily. But here's the question nobody can fully answer. Was it worth it? Was speaking out worth the risk? Was the backlash expected, or did it go further than he imagined? Because in situations like this, there's no clear ending, no simple resolution, just a story that keeps unfolding, and people watching from every angle, trying to decide what they believe. Some see him as someone who took a stand. Others see him as someone who went too far. But one thing is undeniable. He didn't stay silent. And in today's world, that alone can change everything.
I will tell you this right now. I would absolutely, if this were to change the world.
And maybe that's the part that stays with you the longest. Not the headlines, not the interviews, not even the controversy, but the silence that comes after. Because when someone speaks up, really speaks up, and then everything around them starts to shift, you have to ask yourself why.
And it's disgusting that the media hasn't covered it like they should.
Why do some stories get amplified while others slowly disappear? Why do some voices get protected and others pushed to the edge? Jim Caviezel's journey isn't just about one man or one moment. It's about what happens when someone steps outside the lines that most people are too afraid to cross. Whether you believe everything he said or not, you can't ignore the reaction that followed. Careers don't just slow down for no reason. Doors don't quietly close without something changing behind the scenes.
And so America right now and the world, when they see this, they're being reawakened because the media has lied too many times. And this is the strand that broke the camel's back.
And that's where things get uncomfortable. Because the truth is, we may never get all the answers. We may never fully understand what's real, what's exaggerated, or what's been hidden. But what we do know is this: conversations like this don't happen unless something deeper is being touched, something people feel, even if they don't fully understand it. And maybe that's why this story isn't going away anytime soon, because it leaves questions behind. Questions about power, about truth, about what happens when someone refuses to stay quiet, no matter the cost. So now it's your turn. What do you think really happened here? Do you believe Jim was trying to expose something important? Or do you think things went too far and the consequences were inevitable? There's no easy answer, and that's what makes this story so powerful. If this video made you think, if it made you question things, or even just see the situation from a different perspective, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps more people see content like this and keeps these conversations alive. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we're just getting started. There are more stories, more deep dives, and more truths that need to be talked about. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next, because the next story might be even bigger than this one. Until then, stay curious, stay aware, and never stop asking questions.